Trial captivating a nation.
The defense had questions about initial evidence collected in red Solo cups.
Solo cups and stuff put in bags.
You don't know where the DNA that's on those things is coming from.
What can we expect from Cross?
A lot.
The cross-examination has been described as aggressive.
I think they have to be very strong with the cross here because they're not allowed to bring in their own expert to talk about police procedures and policies.
NBC 10 News has the latest on the retrial of Karen Read.
Hi, everybody. Valicenti. This is our daily recap of the retrial in the Karen Read case. Let's begin with Karen Read's father outside court. She was the one who was ill yesterday. That explains the reason why court was canceled yesterday. Let's hear what her father has to say about her illness, or at least not feeling enough to come to court, not feeling well enough. Play.
Schedule, the full days and the like. And as you see, she's an integral part of this team. And she interfaces with every one of these lawyers. She knows the evidence inside and out. So she plays a big part in whatever attorney is up. Like you saw Bob Alessi this afternoon with Ms. Hartnett. And so she plays a big role. And that involves a lot of time. And that time takes away from the necessary sleep that she needs. But she's a fighter. I've never met a stronger person. And so she just she needed more sleep, and she got it yesterday, and so she's doing fine. But
it's not related to her long-term health issues.
Well, I mean, she does have MS, as you all know, and so anything that wears on that ability to maintain your health and maintain your strength is and this certainly is something that is bearing on us all. And particularly on her. So no, it wasn't. It was just she was run down from everything that they work through the weekends. I mean, these are people who have tremendous amount of pride and are working to free Karen Read from all of this persecution. And as you can see, they're doing one hell of an effective job.
Well, that's her father, and in fairness, I guess, to everybody, I could think of several people who might need a stress day after going through this, including Karen Read. So she was well enough to come back today. All right, our reporter Katie Benoit went back today for the court action. Also joining us is our legal analyst Morjieta Derisier from Massachusetts. Katie, there were some kids testifying. The cameras weren't rolling for that. Tell us again how these kids came into the custody or the care of John O'Keefe, whose kids they are, and how he got custody as a review, and then we'll get into what happened today.
Sure. So John O'Keefe's niece testified today. His nephew did not. He testified in the first trial, but he did not testify today. And these were his sister's children. Both their parents, unfortunately, passed away. So John O'Keefe ended up caring for them and was their guardian at the time he died.
And understand he's a caring uncle, I think, by every account. What was the point of bringing them to testify today, Morjieta? What did we learn from that, if anything?
So again, the prosecution is trying to establish the fact that there was tenseness between John O'Keefe and Karen Read, and that tenseness led to Karen Read having some sort of revenge against John O'Keefe. We've seen that again through the text messages with Karen Read and ATF agent Brian Higgins. And all the other allegations that have been, put forward. So this is just another attempt by the prosecution to accumulate some sort of tension between Karen Read and John O'Keefe, and that is the motive behind Karen Read intentionally hitting the car. But again, just because you have tenseness in a relationship with your significant other doesn't always point to the fact that you, harmed them, or in this case, murdered them. So, they're teetering in a particularly great area, but I would just surmise that that's the reason why they had at least one of the children testify today.
Normal relationships are tense every day, and fine one day, tense on a Tuesday, not so good on a Wednesday. Katie, did the kids provide any kind of supporting testimony to show that the uncle and his girlfriend were tense with each other?
Yes. John O'Keefe's niece spoke about that tenseness in their relationship. There was a trip to Aruba where Karen Read accused O'Keefe of kissing another woman, and there was a big argument. So she testified about that. And she said that things got progressively worse after that. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of voice raising. And she spent most of her time on the stand kind of recounting their relationship and how it was a few weeks before he died, that January timeframe.
All right. On the stand today with the cameras rolling, Trooper Zachary Clark. And he talks about When the now fired principal investigator Proctor, the trooper Proctor, was near that SUV in this infamous video that was inverted at one point, shown correctly at another point. What is he talking about before we roll this with regard to seeing Proctor at the SUV? Katie?
So Proctor, in one of those videos, you can see that he was kind of near the tail light that was broken. So there's been some questions about what he was doing there. The defense is trying to point out to the jury, could there have been evidence tampering in this case? And that's one thing they've been focusing on, Proctor's involvement since he's been fired, and what his involvement in investigating this case was with the evidence.
Okay, let's roll that soundbite with Trooper Zachary Clark talking about seeing Proctor in the video near the SUV, and then Morjieta, you can comment on that. Go ahead and play that.
Personal knowledge prior to your arrival of how long Michael Proctor had been with that SUV before you got there, correct?
That's right.
You have no personal knowledge about whether anyone was monitoring Michael Proctor while he was near the vehicle before you got there?
That's correct.
And before you got there, you had no idea how much access Michael Proctor had to that vehicle, right?
Correct.
All right, Morjieta, I guess the point they're trying to make is he had a long time with that vehicle alone. We don't know what he did. Go ahead and pick it up.
So, I think the reality is everybody's wondering, is the prosecution going to call Michael Proctor or not? But I think what we see here is that the prosecution is trying to get in information about Michael Proctor without actually bringing him to the stand, because it's no surprise to anyone that if Michael Proctor takes a stand for the prosecution, it's going to be their Achilles heel. So this is another way that the prosecution is trying to get in information about him without actually calling him to the stand. And they're trying to kind of isolate some of the bad information that's already come out about Proctor without actually getting into that detailed information. I think a lot of what we're trying to see here that the defense may bring up is this Bowden defense that a defense attorney can have the judge give a specific instruction on, which is when there's extreme negligence or failure to actually, prosecute a case from the investigation standpoint. And so, that's really why they're trying to focus so much on what Mr. Proctor did, Trooper Proctor did and didn't do specifically in this case.
And did he break the tail light and plant pieces? Or did Yuri Buchanan do that? In fact, another witness today is Sergeant Brian Gallerani. Hold on, before we do that, it's Maureen Hartnett. She's from the State Crime Lab. And she's talking about taking DNA samples off the broken taillight to check if it's either Proctor or Buchanan. Play that.
You swabbed with one swab the entire area. You are not able to say precisely where any DNA might have come from?
Just that it would have been present, if there was DNA present on that swab, it would have come from the external exposed area of the taillight, should the taillight have been intact.
But again, on the inside, because you didn't swab the inside, you had no evidence of DNA on the inside of the taillight, correct?
Correct. I did not swab the inside.
Should she have, Morjieta?
Sorry, I was mic'd there. So absolutely, she should have definitely swabbed the inside, because again, this tail light is supposedly the murder weapon, right? And regardless of whether the prosecution is now using it to say that none of the police officers physically touched it or their DNA wasn't there, but whether or not John O'Keefe's DNA information was there too, that would have been an integral piece for the specific person to actually do the swab and get some kind of DNA and compare it to an analysis of somebody. But I think the prosecution is trying to flip that now to say, well, hey, look, there's no DNA of Trooper Proctor, Yuri Buchanan, nobody's DNA is in there. But what about John O'Keefe, right? So that would be an important information too. And the jury is probably wondering about that as well. So it's kind of a backdoor way, but I'm not sure if it's landing as succinctly as the prosecution would have wanted it to.
Well, we talked about the Achilles heel. There are two of them here. One is worse than the other, Proctor and Buchanan. All right, what do we know about coming up? Katie Benoit, what do we know about tomorrow?
So the forensic scientist with the Massachusetts State Crime Lab will be back on the stand tomorrow. She didn't finish her cross-examination today. Court wrapped up around 3:45-ish, so she should be back tomorrow on the stand. Not sure who they're going to call after that.
Okay, she had nothing to say on the way out or on the way in. Go ahead and roll the video of Karen walking in today.
She gave a little thumbs up in this video walking in today.
That first clip we had, she really has become sort of a paralegal to that team, greatly involved in her own defense, as the father said. I think he's right about that. All right, she had nothing to say on the way out. That'll wrap up today's Daily Debrief. Be sure to join us on the NBC 10 WJAR YouTube page. Every day after 5 o'clock, court ends, we recap it and try to do our best for you. You could also watch Gavel to Gavel coverage on this same NBC 10 WJAR YouTube page, and we'll recap it at 7 o'clock, and I'll have it on the radio tomorrow morning, too, on WPRO. For now, thanks for joining us. I'm Gene Valicenti. See you on the news tonight.
The trial captivating a nation.
Jennifer McCabe spent longer than anticipated on the stand, sharing what she says Karen Read said as first responders were trying to save John O'Keefe.
Your client said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
She repeated, I hit him, I hit him.
She's testifying to whether or not it was a direct statement, I hit him, versus a question, did I hit him?
It's always inconsistent.
Don't take anyone's word for it.
And no more nonsense. Let's just try this case.
NBC 10 News has the latest on the retrial of Karen Read.